Famicom hasn't made a whole lot of games for the Disk System. Samurai Sword is their third. It's also their final Disk System game. They've really reached the point in the system's library where the big names are going to be dropping out left and right. In this case, Capcom's just beating the rush. They're also going out on a very strange note for Capcom, because Samurai Sword is their first adventure game. Capcom's not a company known for adventure games, but they had about a 6-month period where they dipped their toe in the genre. A few weeks after this, they'll release Pro Yaku Satsujin Jiken, their baseball murder mystery adventure game, and then in 1989 they'll release Marusa no Onna, an adventure game based on a popular film. And then Capcom pretty much bows out of adventure games for a long time. Well, they did seem to have a sudden burst of enthusiasm for the genre in the very late 90s and early 2000s. The plot of Samurai Sword is that the Dark Lord Sauron has returned. One thing stands between him and covering all the world in darkness: the mythical Samurai Sword. And yes, that's in English. You play as a brave warrior who fought Sauron, but couldn't defeat him, and just before you're killed, you're whisked away to a forest. Your one clue for finding the Samurai Sword is that you have to locate a wizard, Sarya, and that becomes your first goal. As an 8-bit console adventure game, Samurai Sword's interface is about what you'd expect. You have a list of verbs, some of which don't appear unless you can use them right then, and when you select a verb, you get to pick a noun to do it to. There's the usual array of verbs here: look, search, talk, take, give. If you wind up in combat, then hit is an option, and once Sarya agrees to help you, she'll appear on the menu as a choice when you want to use her spells. Unfortunately, this is one of those adventure games where to pad out the length, they make you select the same command over and over again until you get a different result. Worse, in the third chapter of the game, there's multiple places where what you have to do to progress is just sit there until the game's timer ticks over. It's not the most engaging way to progress. On the other hand, there are a few things actually resembling puzzles here. They're not especially deep puzzles, but there are a few places in the game where you'll have to figure out how to put everything together in order to get what you want. This is a weirdly dangerous adventure game, something that we haven't seen a whole lot of. Since you keep getting into combat, it's very easy to select the wrong option and get killed. You can save your game at any time though by pressing start and then choosing to save. Samurai Sword is divided up into chapters, and as I mentioned, in the forest, your first goal is to find Sarya. To find her, you need some help from the elves, and you'll have to figure out how to rescue their leader. In gratitude, they'll give you a palantir, and then you use that to see through Sarya's illusions. Once you've found her, though, her spellbook gets stolen, and she'll only help you if you get it back. So off you go again, and the book has been taken by a monster living in a cave. The monster's too tough for you to fight normally, so you'll have to do some puzzle solving in order to beat it. That brings you to Chapter 2, where you wander a desert, and here a dying man gives you a beat-up sword and warns you about some monsters in the area. Stealing his stuff gets you the key to enter an underground complex, where after defeating its guardian, you'll meet the person who rescued you from Sauron and put you on the quest. Turns out that old sword that you got was the Samurai Sword, and he restores it, which will let you beat the monsters in the area. But then Sarya is kidnapped by Sauron, and you're off to the City of Science in pursuit. And that's where I had to stop playing. I reached about the halfway point in the game. The last two chapters being the City of Science and Sauron's Dark Tower. If there's one thing that Samurai Sword is remembered for, is that the music was by first-time composer Yoko Shimomura. Shimomura was very literally just out of college, and Capcom was her first job. She'd go on to compose a significant portion of the music in Street Fighter II, and eventually move over to Square, where she composed the music for Mario RPG and the entire Kingdom Hearts series. Other than that, Samurai Sword is pretty obscure in Japan, but the few people who know it are awfully fond of it. My feelings are a little bit more mixed. Samurai Sword obviously has great presentation. and I think it's a better adventure game than most of the ones that we've seen on these platforms. But it also falls into some of the bad habits of adventure games at the time. So I can't say I give this one a strong recommendation, but on the other hand, if you wanted to play an adventure game on a Famicom, you could do a lot worse than Samurai Sword.